Hi friends, welcome back in this bonus lecture. So I've got a lot of requests to implement the authentication functionality in my e-commerce application. So I'm back with a bonus lecture here in which I will be showing you how to create a login page, how to authenticate users using local account as well as Google account, and display their information on the profile page. Okay, so in the final repo of the backend, we will have the we will already have the logic for authentication. Okay, I already created that in advance. So if you go to my page, GitHub page, right, and check the uh, mega backend section, so under the routes we already have a route for auth. Okay, and this contains all the logic that you need for the authentication. Okay, so without wasting any further time, let's dive into the code. And the very first thing I will do is create some new components. Okay, I'll need a profile component and a login component. So nggc for generate component, and I'll create inside the components folder. First is the login component, and the next one is my profile component. So I'm not going to demonstrate the registration functionality because that is pretty similar, and that logic is already there in the auth.js file. Please check that file. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay. Also, I'm gonna create a folder called guard, as you can see here, and inside that folder I'm gonna create a new guard. This is the authentication guard or route guard, you can say. This will prevent somebody to access the profile route without authenticating. The name is profile guard. Okay. Also, I'll need a service for the user authentication, and the type of guard will be can activate. Okay. So under the services, I'm going to create a new service. Oops. So schematic service, and this time I'm using a lighter theme here in my PHP Storm, as someone told me that it's not properly visible in my videos, so I chose this nice lighter theme. Hopefully everything is visible now. So the service will be my user service. Okay, that I'll use to communicate with the backend. Also, we will need a package for the social login. The package, I've already installed it here. The package name is it's Angular X. Let me show you here under npm.js. If you go search for Angular X social login, something like that, and this one, it says 5 months old. Okay, if you open this, it has 10,000 weekly downloads. So install this package using this commandlet. Okay, and once installed, simply go to your app module here, and after the forms module, install social login module. Okay, you also need to define a constant or a config variable here. You can refer to the document. Okay, so let's copy this code from here, and I'm not using Facebook as of now. So for Google, okay, to import all these providers from here, from the package, and here you need to specify your client ID. So if you go to OAuth, Google OAuth API console, you need to create a login with your Google account here. Under credentials, you need to create credentials. I've already done here for my e-commerce app. You copy that here, and paste it in the client ID. Okay, that's it. Once this is done, you need to go back to the documentation, then export a function like this so that I can refer in the code. And here under the providers array, you need to provide this configuration. Okay, and to import auth service config from Angular X social login. Make sure your IDE completes it, otherwise you need to type it manually. So while this is done, we are all set, we are all hooked up. So let's quickly go to our user service. First of all, it's blank as of now, so we need to inject a couple of services. So first is our auth service, which we get from the package that we installed, social login package. Also we will be using our HTTP client service. Okay, and on the top I need to declare a few variables. First will be my auth variable. Okay, and I'll define this as false initially. Also I need a server URL. This will be pointing to my server URL here in the environment file. Next I will also have a user variable. Let's see if we are going to use it, or not. Next I'm going to define a couple of observables. First is my user state observable, which will be of type new behavior subject, and this will emit initially my auth status. Okay, and this is going to be of type boolean. Similarly, I'll also have user data observable. This will be of type social user. So this is a type that comes with your package. Okay, and this will be of initially of type now. The initial value will be now. Also I'm gonna define an interface here of type response model. So this will be the response that I will get from the backend server in case of local login, and I'm gonna have all these parameters sent. Okay, so my user data can be of either of type social user or response model, either of those. Okay, so my user service in the constructor, I'll subscribe to the auth service. It emits an observable of auth state. Okay, let's subscribe to it, and this will give me an user of type social user object, of course. So I'll check if the user is not null. So it can either be null or an actual object of social user type. So if it's not null, I'll set the auth to true. That means it's authenticated. I'll emit auth state with a new value of this.auth, and I'll also emit the user data observable with this user object. So it can be either social user or response model. Now we need to write some code or some functions. Login user with email and password. Create a login user function. This will take email as a string and a password as a string here. Okay, This should be after the constructor here. Make sure the brackets are properly set, otherwise you're going to get an error. So here inside the body, I'll reach out to my backend. I'm using backticks. So this dot server URL, the server URL is here. Okay. So that will be /auth after the API. It's /auth/login, and I'm gonna send the email and the password. Okay. So this is this password in the body. So once this is done, I'll subscribe to the observable. I'll get a data which is of type response model from the backend server, and I'll assign my auth variable to the data.auth parameter that will be of type boolean. Okay, and this is also boolean, as you can see here. It's boolean type. Next I'm going to do the same thing that I did here. Copy, paste. This will ensure whether that a single line of code, this will be data, sorry. So my single user data can support both social user type and the response model type. Okay, this is for my local login. That's it, nothing else. For Google authentication, okay, I'll use a function Google login. This will take no parameters, and simply I'll go to my auth service directly, and I'll use sign in with Google login provider and provider ID. That's it. This is the only function you need to authenticate yourself using Google account. Okay. Once this is done, we are done with the user service. Let's also implement the logout functionality. Here it will take no parameters, so I'll go to auth service. There is a method of sign out. Just invoke it or call it, and I'll set the auth to false manually, and I'll auth state, emit the auth state to this.auth. So this will ensure whether we are logged in with Google or with a local account. It will log us out. Okay, it doesn't matter which method, authentication method we are using here. So with this, we have finished the user service functionality. Let's close this. Okay, let's first work on the header component here a little bit. So in the header component, we want to display. If you go back here, we want to change this to login if the user is not logged in, or show this as my account if the user is logged in. And also in the app routing module, we need to define few routes. Part will be /login, and component is login component. Also we need a path for profile, and the component will be profile component, and this can only be activated when I'm logged in. So I'll use the profile guard here. Okay, and inside the profile guard, let's configure the profile guard first. So profile guard is a special service that implements the can activate interface, and it gets two parameters. One is of type activated route snapshot, and the other one is router state snapshot, and it can return either an observable of boolean or promise of boolean or a boolean itself. So the output should either be a true or false. Okay, so the way we're gonna use it is to inject our services first. So I'm gonna inject my user service, private user service of type user service, and my router here. So right now it's returning true. We don't want that. We want to check if this user service auth, if this boolean is set to true, then return true. Okay, otherwise I want to now navigate the user to the login page, login route. Also I'm going to send some query params here so that I know from which URL the user is returning or coming from. So my state object here, my state parameter here, which is of type router state snapshot, has got a URL that will capture my current URL. I'm gonna send this to the route while navigating to it. Also, since this is a failure or my can activate is not true, I'll return false. So this is very important. If you do not return false, it will not function properly. With this, we have finished the implementation of can activate profile guard. And if I go back here, so now if I try to access the profile route, I'll be sent the login. Okay, as you can see, it's login, and I'm getting the return URL here. So as soon as you log in, it will send you back to this return URL. We want that functionality. So let's go to my header component. In my header component, I'm gonna implement a couple of things. I want to listen to the auth state here. Let's create a variable and also inject user service here. Okay, so I'm in my ng on init. I want this user service dot auth state and subscribe to it. So let's say auth state, this dot auth state equals to auth state. So it can be either true or false, and based on that value I want to display my text here. So how to do that? Use your interpolation, string interpolation, and here you can check for auth state. If it is false, then I'm not logged in, so I need to display login, else I'll display my account. And this should take send me to profile no matter what, because if it's sending me the profile page and if I'm not logged in, I'll be redirected to the login page automatically. So let's test that. Save these changes, go back to your page. As you can see, I'm not logged in, so it says login. Okay, right now I don't have the login page yet, so this says go to login. Alright, this works. So I'm gonna close the app routing, profile guard, and the header component as well. Now let's work on the login form here. Okay, so I have that login code already with me. I created. So you will have this code with in the final version. So what I did, I created a container, a jumbotron inside it, and I created a row with 6 columns, and inside that I created a form. Okay, so to use this form, make sure you have imported the forms module here under the imports array in your app module, otherwise it will not function. And I'm using what do you call, two-way data binding here using ng model, and I've marked these fields as required. And to use ng model, make sure you give the input a name. This is mandatory. Okay, and I'm also making sure that my login button is disabled if my form is invalid. So invalid means if either of these fields is not filled or has some errors. Okay, and I am defining a couple of functions here. So my login function, okay, this is my local login and this is my Google login. Okay, in my login component I'll also define a couple of fields here on top. Email of type string and password of type string. So this will correspond to the name that I defined here. So this is pointing to my field here, as you can see. In the constructor I need few services. First is auth service from the package we installed. We also need the router, an Angular router. We also need user service from our custom user service, and we also need the route from activated route, not snapshot, the route. And make sure you write all these import statements. In my ng on init, I'm gonna call my user service and the auth state, subscribe to it, and this will give me a auth state. So type boolean, okay, and if I'll check for auth state, if that is true, I'll call my router here and use navigate by URL. So here I'll check for the, I'll call this route variable and it will have a activated route snapshot property here, which is of the name snapshot. So this snapshot has query params, what do you call, attribute or parameter, whatever you want to call it, and I can refer to the return URL which I defined in my profile card, I guess, right here. So this name should match this string here. If that is not defined, I want the user to be sent to the profile page, okay, using this logical OR operator. Else, if this is not true, if my auth state is false, I want the router to navigate by URL to the login page. So go to the login if the user is not authenticated. And for sign in with Google, it's very easy. My user service, not auth service, dot Google login. That's it. For the manual login here, I'll create two variables. This will be my test.email and const password equals to this dot password. So the value will automatically get updated using ng model here. So this is a two-way data binding. Whatever you type in the field will automatically get updated in the variable, local variable. Okay. So first of all, I'll check if the form is invalid. Okay, so I want to do nothing. This is just a safe check because sometimes, although the button will be disabled, but in case if someone goes to the browser developer tools and removes this disable check and hits the button, then still my function would not execute. Okay, so if this is not the case, I want to reset the form. Okay, first of all I want to reset the fields, and I want the user service, I want to call the user service and login user with my email and password. That's it. Okay, now let's quickly work on the profile section. So I close this, go to my profile component. Where is it? Okay, so for the profile I found a nice snippet here. okay, like this. You can copy the HTML and CSS both. Make sure you copy both from here. So I already have it in my notepad, so I'm gonna copy everything from here, both the HTML and CSS. Okay, now let's work on the profile component here. .ts file, I mean. So this is a TypeScript file. So the very first thing, I would need a local reference to my user object. It will be of type any. I need the access to my services, the auth service of type auth service. Service, my user service of type user service, and my router. Okay, so in my constructor, make sure the bracket is there, parenthesis is there. I don't want to do anything as of now. I have ng on init here, so ng on init, I want to subscribe to both my auth service and user service because both are emitting variables. I'm sorry, not variables, it's observable. So first let's use user service dot user data observable, and here instead of directly subscribing to it, I'll use the pipe operator. Okay, then subscribe to it. Inside the pipe, I'll use the map operator from RxJS to do a bit of change. Okay, and I want to see if this user this will emit a user object. Okay, so I'll check if the user is an instance of social user. Okay, it is a special type that comes for only with Google login. If that's the case, then what I want to return is email. I want to change the email attribute that I display with test@test.com. I don't want to display the actual email, and rest I want to display whatever the user has. Okay, like display name and all those things. Okay, if that's not the case, I want to return a complete user. Okay, that's the only logic I need. In the subscribe call, I'll get some data which will be of type either response model. Response. Okay, I think I need to export that type from my service. Okay, export the interface. So response model or social user. Okay, it can be either of those two types. Whatever it is, I want to assign my user to the data, and in my component I've replaced all the field with my user. So for the photo URL, it will have the photo URL attribute in both the cases. Alt tag can either be my first name or my F name. This is coming from my database. Can show you my database. So my database, my users, I've added this photo URL column. So I have first name, last name, all these things, username, everything is coming there except for the password. Okay, so make sure you replace all these things which you will find here you have, it will be like this name. I replace this with my username, and then all these static values I have replaced it here with dynamic values. And there is a button here, profile button, I believe, edit profile. This input, I've changed this with a button here that will be used for logging out. Let's do this function, and I'll call user service logout. That's it. Okay. So once this is saved, I go back to my front end. Let's open my developer console. Let's see what we have. So if I have a user with name Mike here. Okay. So if, and you see on the top, this is login right now. So if I use my local login, this gets changed to my account. I get my photo URL. This is a dummy photo. I get my name, I get my user ID, my name, and the email which is there in the database. Okay. But if I log out and I use my Google account, which is this one, okay, I get my photo, I get my name and my email. Okay, I don't want to display this, so let's log out from here. Let's see what's happening here. Profile component, okay. So my user data here, let's see, go back here. Okay, let's do one quick subscribe call to the auth service auth state user auth state dot pipe dot subscribe. I'll use the same pipe function here. Copy, paste, and this will give me a user of type social user. If user is not null, I want this dot my user equals to user, else return. So let's see if this works. I go back to my page. I'm logged out. I use my Google Authentication page, and nope, it still doesn't work. So I need to check, but this should work actually. Whenever you sign in, and here in my component, let's see, email, what it is, it's my user.email only, and let's do it like this. Okay, go back. Okay, now you see it's test.test.com, because you need to first expand the object. Okay, this is a spread operator. You need to expand the object and then you can replace the attribute individually. and I believe I don't need this auth service call at all. Let me just comment it out, save changes, go back to the browser, and it works. Yes, perfect. Click log out, everything goes back to normal. You cannot access the profile page. So let's check that profile. I'll access it. You log in locally, it works. You log in with Google, it works. Perfect. So this is all about the login functionality. I hope you have learned something out of it, and if you have any questions, please feel free to put that in the comment section, and I'll see you next time. Till then, take care and have a wonderful day. Bye bye.